Welcome to Unit 3 of Publishing, Options, and Pointers. Last, we talked about why you might want to write a book. Now we're moving on into the publishing stage. And keep in mind that publishing is a business. I will start out by saying I am not an accountant or a lawyer, so I am not offering any advice in those two areas except for to say you should go talk to an accountant or a lawyer to get more details. We're going to talk about some things that are really going to affect you when you're setting up your business. And even if you're traditionally publishing, you still have a business because you have to get to that stage. You have to write the book. You have to have a computer to write it on. So there are going to be business expenses as you look towards getting published. One of the first things I would recommend is that you keep your money separate. You might have a personal account that you're going to use to seed your business, put money forward to buy the computer and the printer, memberships of organizations that you need. That's fine. Track that that's the seed money, but I would recommend putting it into a separate bank account. That helps keep your books straight. Whether or not you need insurance specifically for your business, your writing business, probably depends a lot on what kind of things you're writing. If you are given advice and somebody takes that advice and it doesn't go well, are they going to sue you for that? If so, you might want to consider insurance. Record keeping is extremely important. You need to track your mileage, where you've gone, why you've gone there. If you're going to meet with an agent, if you're going to a seminar, if you're going to the store to pick up more parts for your printer, paper, ink, that kind of stuff. Keep track of all that. The calendar is also really important. It is a rule of thumb that any business is expected to make money 3 out of the 5 years they're in business. When you're first starting out as a writer, you're not going to have a lot of income, but you probably will have a lot of expenses. What you want to be able to do is show that you are trying, you are actively trying in your business. So that might be attending seminars, meeting with various writers, meeting with agents, going to other book festivals and seeing how things are done there. Keep track of all these things that you're doing to further your business in your calendar. In some cases, the books that you purchase may be eligible for a tax write-off. Ask your accountant. If you are writing a memoir, so you are buying other memoirs so you can get a feel for how it's done, then those might be a write-off. If you are buying marketing books to figure out how you're going to market when your book hits the streets, again, that could easily be a tax write-off. There is a difference between legal status and how you file your taxes. So make sure you get those two straight. An LLC, a limited liability corporation, is a legal status and it protects you, again, in that case where somebody decides to sue you because of something you said in your book. It separates your business, your writing business, from your personal accounts. But that doesn't really affect necessarily how you file your taxes. So talk to your lawyer and your accountant and figure out which is the best way to go for yourself. I also recommend you join professional organizations. There are writers' groups all over the country. Find out which one is closest to you. They're usually fairly inexpensive, $25, $30, $40 a year. And then they may have conferences that go along with that, or just a website where you can get other resources. You don't have to belong to professional organizations just in your area. Go on the internet. You can find them everywhere. Here are some other things to think about when you're doing your writing and setting up your business. I'm going to start with illustrations because that is a very expensive part of writing a children's book. Some things to think about. If you are trying to pitch a children's book to a traditional publisher, they will probably have their own artist on staff. They won't necessarily want your artist or your illustrations. So I wouldn't spend a lot of money paying somebody else to make drawings for you that are then going to be tossed aside. If you're an artist and can do both, absolutely fantastic. Go ahead and pitch it and see what happens. The other thing is if you decide you're hybrid publishing or going to self-publish and you do hire an illustrator, you need a contract. It's very important to have a contract. And there's a couple different ways that you can set your contract up for the illustrator to be paid. They could be paid on a straight royalty split, meaning they get a portion of every book you sell. You can do work for hire. If you do a royalty split with them, they still own the copyrights for those drawings. They can do what they want with those drawings. If you do a work for hire, meaning you pay them up front for their work, it's as if somebody was working for Apple Computers and they wrote a program while they were working there. Apple, because they were paying them at the time, they own those rights. When the person moves on, they don't take that code with them. So if you hire an illustrator work for hire, you then become the owner of the copyright. If you can afford it, I recommend that. It's just less paperwork hassle in the long run. If you do royalty share, you have to keep in touch with that illustrator for the rest of the book's life. A lot of people like using quotes in a book, maybe to start a chapter. You really have to think hard about that and see what is in copyright and what is not. There are various rules depending on if the person is famous, if the person's in the public eye, whether or not you can quote them, and if you have to have their permission. So just be very careful about that. Don't think, well, it's in this other book, so I should be able to do it too. You don't know what they went through to get that permission. Same thing with song lyrics. You can list the title of a song, but if you have the character singing the song lyrics, you need copyright permission to do that. Biblical quotes is another thing they take for granted that they're out there in the public use. They are not. Bibles are published by a publishing company, and they own the copyrights. Most Bibles, though, if you look right in the front, you can see who the publisher is, and then go out to their website, and their website will usually tell you exactly how many quotes you can use from the Bible before you have to actually pay for it or ask permission. And they give you a little paragraph that you put on your copyright page that basically says, used by permission for this number of quotes. But they'll give it to you exactly, so you can just copy and paste it in there. But don't take it for granted. Do your research and figure out what the rules are. Some other key things to know. There is so much more after you write your book, and now you're doing your marketing, and it's time to sell it. You have to figure out how you're going to get it to the customer. That's distribution. If somebody buys a book on Amazon, for example, Amazon needs to send a note to the distribution company that says somebody bought this book. If the books are stored in a warehouse somewhere, then the company tells the warehouse to mail the book out. So it's a big circle. If somebody then returns the book, it has to go back to the warehouse, and then the computer program has to be updated for distribution. This can be very complicated. Some companies will do this for you. Traditionals obviously do it for you. Some hybrids will do it. So you need to ask the question about how they do distribution, because that's very important for you to know. If you are doing print on demand, say you're using Amazon, KDP, or even Ingram Spark, they are your distributor at that point. So if someone orders one book on Amazon, they're going to send it to the printer in this case, because you don't have a warehouse on print on demand. They're going to send it to the printer, and the printer will print one copy and mail it out, and they are acting as the distributor. The difference between print on demand, like I just explained, and a print run has a lot to do with cost. If you do a print run of 2,000-3,000 books, you're going to need a warehouse. But if you do a print run of only 200, you might be perfectly fine keeping them in your garage or in your closet, whatever works best for you. A print run, you will usually make more money per sold book because the price to print per book is a lot lower than print on demand. When you're printing one thing at a time, it's going to cost more money. You can do a mix of the two. You can have a print run, especially if you're starting a new book, and also have it set up print on demand to handle any of the online sales that happen. But you might want the print run for when you're going to different markets or craft shows or doing your book launch. So you can mix the two. Returns are something that really eat at the profits, especially for a small publisher or a self-publisher. If you're doing a print on demand, most of those companies don't allow returns. There's no choice. But if you are working with a larger company and you have warehousing and distribution, so let's give the example, Barnes & Noble orders 10 of your books. So they tell the distributor, I want these books. The distributor sends the note to the warehouse. The warehouse ships out 10 books to Barnes & Noble. 2 weeks later, Barnes & Noble says, they're not selling. I'm going to return 5. When they return it to the warehouse, every time the warehouse touches the book, there's a charge. So you're paying for square footage of space that you're taking up in their warehouse. Then you're getting charged when they ship the book out. And then you're getting charged if they have to bring the book back in. So returns can quickly eat away at your profit. So you have to watch that carefully. It's something that the distribution center should be watching. And if you have a good one, they are checking to make sure that Barnes & Noble doesn't constantly, and I'm just using Barnes & Noble as an example. I don't really know how often they return books. But if Barnes & Noble returns on a regular basis, they should be able to shut them down and go, you only sold 5 last time. I'm only going to send you 6 just in case. So they can control that flow, help you control the flow. People really are surprised when I tell them that selling in a brick and mortar store, you have to give the bookseller a 55% discount right off the bat. That's whether you're traditional, or hybrid, it doesn't matter. For a bookstore, typically to carry a book, they have to be working on a 55% discount because that's how they make money. So don't be surprised. There's ways to get around it. As a hybrid publisher myself, with my books, I set the discount because you do this through your distributor. I set the discount price on my books at 33%, which is the lowest you can go. What that means is if you walk into the store and try to order one of my books, they can see it in their computer and order it and get it for you and sell it. But you're never going to see one of my books on a bookshelf because I don't offer the 55% discount. They're not going to order them in bulk. I do that to try to get around the returns because, again, every time they touch a book, it costs money. So I don't want a bookstore buying a lot of my books and then returning them. And then in the long run, I'm going to end up losing money on the sale. Not really an issue for you if you're doing traditional. They will take the returns and all that out of your royalty pay, obviously, but it's a lot bigger scale, and the report you get in the end takes care of it all for you. You don't have to think about it so much. Okay, that was a lot of different definitions and things to think about. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. There's more information in the book, The Road to Publishing. You can find it on my website or Barnes & Noble or Amazon. So drop me a note if you have any questions. Talk to you next time.